Hey, this is Cardboard Minutes, and it is almost Halloween time here. We've got a night full of spooky games ahead of us with some good friends. We're going to give you guys a quick recommendation of some good scary or horror-themed games to play for the season. Why don't we go down the line here and introduce ourselves?
Hi, my name's Vu Nguyen. We've been playing board games for about 4 years now. Enjoying it greatly.
Yep, I'm Will.
John Taylor.
Farhan, Mirza.
All right, so we're just going to take turns doing kind of one game each until we've gone through. We've each picked out a couple of games. I don't believe there are any overlaps. These are all games that we have played and love, and I'll put chapters in the on the video. So if you want to skip ahead to see what we think of different games, feel free. And Vu will take off with you.
Okay, I guess my first game I'm going to talk about is Hellboy, the board game. Now this was originally a Kickstarter, but now it's gone to retail. This version I have is actually the retail version. It's a great game. I enjoyed it a lot. It's not quite a dungeon crawl like I thought it was going to be. It was more of a Euro tactical game with some dungeon crawl elements. I find you do a lot of tactical thinking with either yourself if you're playing solo or with your co-op teammates, trying to, I guess, work through which actions you want to use, either for defensive or for attacking the creatures. So I find that thematically, it's really good. It fits kind of the movies from Guillermo del Toro, and it's a fun little game. The scenarios that they built in are all very different. I found my only issue, I guess, with the retail version that it's a little limited in the characters and the monsters and bosses that you have to fight. So I know the Kickstarter version has a lot more, but if you get the Kickstarter version, get it. But if not, I guess you'll have to go and get the expansions that are available for it.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes, right?
Yeah.
The Kickstarter trims off some of the best stuff sometimes. I've got my first recommendation is Alien: The Fate of Nostromo. We've already done a playthrough. You've probably seen John, also on my channel, doing a video of this. We did, however, play the director's cut mode, which is significantly harder, and we died before we completed, I think, a single objective.
Close to one of them. We were close.
It was
one of them.
It was rough. The alien god's pretty bad, but it is generally a lot easier than that, and a lot easier to win. Not guaranteed, of course, but it is a fairly light cooperative game for 1 to 5 players. Plays well at all player counts that I've played at so far, and is very thematic. If you're looking for a game set in the alien universe that is on brand, we'll not talk about that right now. We'll probably compare off-brand games in a different video. But there's plenty of flavor to be had in here.
I don't think you can talk about Halloween games without talking about Horrified. It's a nice, light co-op, but it has all the universal monsters, and it's pretty smooth, pretty easy to teach, pretty easy to play with a good amount of variability in terms of both the setup and the difficulty. All right, I have it right set up. What I like is basically, so you want it harder, add more monsters. You want it easier, less monsters. What combination, etc. Which special powers do you take from the starter, your character? I think it really does a great job. Interesting theme, good production, just a lot fun, light game. Not for everyone. If you don't want the lighter element to it, or maybe you think it's too simple. But I think it's a perfect Halloween game in terms of theme, family friendly, good family game, co-op, and yeah, for Halloween, I'm keeping this in my collection just for Halloweens.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. I think they came out with a new version for Horrified just recently. So if you're a fan of the theme, you're going to get some more Horrified coming at you soon.
I believe it's American Monsters?
I believe so,
like
yeah.
Cryptids and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in trying that one out. I definitely do like this one a lot. Yeah, so I'd like to start off my my list with a game I like a lot. It's called Campy Creatures. This is the second edition of the game that I have here. Was a Kickstarter, and now it's out in retail as well. Again, in the same vein as Horrified, it's got all the campy kind of creatures that you're used to, the werewolf, the blob. There's a new expansion that adds Frankenstein's monster. So it's got all the creatures that you're used to for Halloween, and it's a great game to start off your evening with, or maybe to end the evening with. It's a simultaneous card selection game in the same vein, perhaps, as a Libertalia, if you're familiar with that one. And you're trying to basically capture mortals. You're a group of monsters that's trying to capture mortals and go for the most points at the end of the game. So it's a lot of fun. Plays quick, 2 to 5 players, and one that I definitely recommend.
Great. Next Halloween up, for sure. For Halloween, you have to have Frankenstein. So the next game up is Abomination, the Era of Frankenstein. This game is a worker placement type game. It's a little bit complex, not too complex, but it's fairly tactical. You're doing a lot of manipulating through the boards, trying to get body parts, trying to get supplies to build your Frankenstein. It's a 2 to 4 player game, but I know they recently released a solo mode, so I played that a few times. Much enjoy it. And they also have a quick start because the game can run a little bit long. Some people have found on some of the reviews and some of the comments. But the new quick start, where they give you a little bit more materials and a little bit more powers, gets the game going really fast and really fun. I myself, I love it. You're running around, you're trying to collect body parts from the morgue, from the hospitals and whatnot. So that the theme is right up there with horror and Halloween. My only caveat is that some of the graphic, although beautiful, is a little bit on the gruesome side. So for anyone with weak stomachs or weak visuals, you may want to...
maybe not for kids.
Yeah,
CG rating. Yeah.
I'm not sure I could play that without constantly referring to Young Frankenstein.
Yes.
But but a lot of thinking, a lot of good actions you can do in the game, and I just find it an overall very fun horror-filled game that you can really get into. The theme is 110% throughout the game.
All right, next one I've got is Fury of Dracula. This is going to be one of the games we're playing this evening. Plays from 2 to 5, but really it works best with a full 5 if you can manage it, because it is a 1 versus all game. One player is Dracula. He is old and curmudgeon, and he is kind of roaming around the countryside, creating new vampires and making layers. And the 4 hunters, played by however many players you have at the table at the time, are trying to track him down. Dracula is moving secretly, so he is not actually on the board, but he is leaving a trail of evidence behind him. And the players will be stumbling upon that and trying to track down where he is so they can catch him and defeat him before he has built his army of vampire coven. So excellent game. It is definitely on the longer side with some variability. You could catch Dracula pretty quickly, or it could go on for a couple hours. But it is a classic game that's been reprinted multiple times for a reason. Do check it out. It is great for Halloween especially too.
Absolutely.
So on the horror side, I love games in the Cthulhu mythos. I find the Arkham Files games, this is a bit of a cheat. I'm referring to all of them here, or most of them anyway. This is Arkham Horror, the 3rd edition. I didn't want to lug around the Mansions of Madness box because it's filled with everything and it's way too heavy. But they all capture that Call of Cthulhu adventure feel, and which is an interesting horror setting. Probably my favorite one of those settings is actually Eternal Darkness on the GameCube, if you've ever played it. But really interesting co-op game. You get more skills and whatnot as you go. Some dice chucking for skill tests and whatnot for both for this and Mansions of Madness. Mansions of Madness does have an app that runs everything. So if you don't like that, then you may want to stick with this or Eldritch Horror or Elder Sign, which I think I've just listed in decreasing complexity levels. Anyway, lots of fun. Can be long. It does say 1 to 6 players. And Eldritch Horror can be 1 to 8. I would not recommend it at the higher counts. I tried it. Didn't like it that way. But did like the game overall.
I'm just going to chime in with Arkham Horror, the card game, since we're talking about Arkham Horror. And this is a great game. Although, buyer beware, you will be sinking your money into this pit if you do like it, because there are...
now, this is the empty box, right?
Yes, this is the empty box.
How much do you own for this game right now?
I own all of the expansions, all of the Mythos packs, and unfortunately I did enjoy it quite a bit, so I had to go all in. So be prepared for that, but it plays great solo. You can play single-handed or double-handed, so you can play with 1 or 2 investigators. You get to build your characters. I enjoy that quite a bit, and you're playing with basically a map, just like in the board game, but with cards. You're building it out as you go with a deck of cards, and so I enjoyed quite a bit. It does run about a couple hours a session, but it can be a lot of fun if you really enjoy that sort of thing. So I want to chime that in on the Arkham Horror side of things as well. But for my actual recommendation for this one, I'd like to talk about Unmatched. We talked about Dracula originally. Anyway, so Unmatched, while in itself is not a horror game, this box, Cobble and Fog, adds the typical horror monsters, the Jekyll and Hyde. You've got Invisible Man, you've got Dracula, and you've got Sherlock Holmes, and they're kind of walking around and having combat in one of 2 maps. It does fit in with all the other expansions as well. So if you do want to go all in, you can expand this game as well. But it's great. It plays light. It plays best at 2, but you can't play up to 4. But it is a skirmish type game and one that plays fairly quickly. So Unmatched, Cobble and Fog.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, there is a Buffy expansion for there, isn't there?
Sure is.
So you can redo Buffy
There we
versus
go.
Dracula.
There we
You
go.
can redo that episode.
You can have that fight if you really want to. But, there you go.
I'm pretty sure Bruce Lee's in there too.
Bruce Lee's around. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to kung fu Dracula in the face, then that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
I got one last one here on the same vein of the mythos and Arkham Horror and whatnot. I've got Kingsport Festival, which is literally just a reskin of Kingsburg. So if you want Kingsburg, but you want to, instead of trying to avoid the hordes that, you have to build up your defenses to make sure you stayed safe. Now the defenses are actually the investigators, because in this case, you are the cultists. You're the cultists trying to summon the great old ones, and instead of asking for help from the patrons, it's a dice placement game. Instead of asking for help from the patrons, you're actually asking for help from the Dark Elder gods like Cthulhu and Azathoth and Nyarlathotep and so on. So, different spin on it. So if you want a game where you can be the cultists, this is it. And there's also a card game variant, a version that's smaller and not quite as a full implementation, but still fun.
Well, thanks guys for your recommendations. We're going to get to playing some scary games. I hope you guys at home enjoy your scary games, whether it's still Halloween or any time of the year. And stay tuned. This is the Cardboard Minute. Thanks for watching.